These are the triggers that I experience. These are the triggers that I deal with and what I've done to overcome some of them. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Heywood. Welcome back. And for the new peoples, thank you for being here. Today we're going to be talking about triggers. What are the things that set you off? The things that get under your skin? The things that you just can't quite put into words, but when they happen, you get this rage come all over you. This is Heywood and stuff. You're right. We get triggers for lots of reasons. There are lots of reasons why we get triggers, and they are all incredibly frustrating. Later on in the video, I'm going to be explaining to you a little trick on how you can kind of eradicate the triggers to a certain degree. The first set of triggers that I want to go through are titled When in Love triggers, because these are the triggers that your lover has the amazing ability to bring out in you. First trigger. You know when you're having a meal with your lover and you're all in love, there's a candle, it's nice, it's your favorite meal. Oh God, we are so in love right now. And you go down, you look at your food and you're cutting it and you're chopping it, and then suddenly there's a... What the fuck is that? The angel of your life, the queen of your Sheba, the senorita of your Juan Jose Carlos III is chewing loudly. And it will start with a little bit of a... But before you know it, you are fully consumed by the sound of wet food. Why? Here's one I like to call the double trigger. The double trigger is when your partner is triggering for whatever reason. There's a host of possibilities. Simply by their act of triggering, your trigger response is affected. And before you know it, you're both triggering. It's a glorious moment. It's a fantastic occasion. It's one that really must be seen. Picking. Fucking picking, whether it's picking your nose or picking your teeth or picking your fingers. Why? Fucking triggers me. These are triggers I like to call all by myself triggers. They're the triggers that happen personally. They're the triggers that happen on your own. They're the triggers that just you learn to live with. Clothing. There are lots of elements to this catastrophically nuclear fucking trigger. Finding clothes, the actual action of putting on clothes. Can't get your leg in the trousers right. You put on a t-shirt that doesn't feel right. You look in the mirror and there's just something not right. Putting on shoes. You just can't jam your fucking foot in the fucking boot. When I try to put on a boot and the laces are too tight, you know when you put your foot half into the boot and it just gets wedged, and so essentially you're just wearing a high heel of a boot with your fucking dopey heel hanging out of the boot as a trigger warning. So then you have to undo the laces of the boot because you need to open up the boot. The boot that you've been wearing for 2 years still needs space for your big fat foot. So you undo the laces and then you put your foot back in. You're like, this is gonna do it. This is gonna be the one. My foot is fitting in this boot. And you get it in the boot. But now there's something in the boot. So what do? You take off the fucking boot. Put your foot back in the boot. 5 minutes later, your ankle sock has wrapped itself underneath your heel. Just to keep shit fresh. Just to let you know you're alive. Just to let you know you're wearing your favourite fucking boots. Just to let you know that you haven't got any socks left. Where the fuck are my keys? I come home, I'll take off my jacket, I'll put my keys in the bowl. Next morning, go downstairs, put on my jacket. Where the fuck are my keys? It's a trigger warning. First thing in the morning, you wake up. Oh, I slept really well. Hold on. I haven't woken up naturally. I can hear that faint noise of a dog crying in the background called Vader that he's been doing since I first got him 5 years ago. Trigger warning. My dog Vader is a Doberman. He's a lovely dog. He's a pain in the fucking ass. I've often used him as a monitor to see how I'm getting on with my mental progression, with my spiritual growth. I check if my zens and my chakras are aligned, depending on how heavy our trigger. When Vader's crying first thing in the morning, it goes a little something like this. Oh God, what time is it? Oh, that fucking dog. Alright, find your centre, Heywood. Shut the fuck up. He's gonna keep crying until I get up. Fuck it! By this time, of course, once I found my keys, got on my shoes and got the fucking dog outside, all while Vader's... I am ready. My body is 100% prepared. I am on high alert. And the possibility of me just completely losing my shit is right there. A couple more speciality triggers here. I don't know if anyone else has these actually. I'm pretty sure they're not as common. They make me sound like an absolute cunt. For as long as I can remember, if someone asks me first thing in the morning how I slept, I get this uncontrollable feeling of anger, and I have no idea why. If someone, God forbid, out of the goodness of their heart should ask me if I'm feeling all right because I'm being quiet, uncontrollable feeling of anger. I don't know where this comes from. I don't know why I have it, but I do. I think often it's a case of a fact that I don't know. I don't know how I slept. I'm not sure. Probably just woken up. I don't know how I feel. I don't know why I'm quiet. I'm probably contemplating something. These triggers are unnecessary. They serve no purpose for me right now. Don't want to be a cunt, but it happens, man. Okay, so that was some of the fun part. Now I'm going to quickly explain to you how we can remedy these triggers. And I know it works because I've used it with the morning scenario when Vader is crying, my ultimate fucking trigger. The number one most important thing to do to be able to relieve yourself from these triggers is to be hyper aware of them. So let's use Vader as an example. He's crying in the morning. I wake up. Start triggering. Once you start triggering, you don't have much time to actually start thinking about it. But once it's passed, you can look back on the trigger. This is something that we need to do. So, say I've had a monumental fuck up one morning, right? I've woken up, Vader's crying, I can't get my fucking shoes on, the keys took me half an hour to find, I can't get the fucking lead on Vader, he's gone ape shit, he's attacked 3 dogs, I've pissed my pants, my ankle sock is now up my ass, I can't handle it, it's been brilliant. I've snapped at my missus, I haven't gone to work, I've shat my pants, oh what a classic, all because of this trigger. What a day. So lunchtime comes and I'm feeling chill and I'm good now. I'm good. And I look back and I think, what is it that caused this trigger? Why does it affect me so much? There's got to be a reason. There's an original point at why the trigger is there. What is the purpose of this trigger? Now, generally these triggers, they stem back from childhood. So you got to do some searching. You got to go right back. I came to a conclusion that the reason why I trigger so hard when Vader cries is because of my own guilt that I'm not looking after him, that I'm not taking him out for a walk, or that he's upset and he's not a happy pet. This is where the trigger stems from. I feel like through his crying, I am being blamed. And this blame can predate right back to being a child and a young adult and constantly getting in trouble, always getting in trouble for things, always getting blamed, always getting shamed. But this is really the melting pot that will cause Vader's crying to trigger me. It makes me feel bad, it makes me feel blamed, and this is all coming from me. Vader is just crying because he wants to get the fuck out of the house and go for a walk. But this feeling of blame and shame is what's triggering me. Step 2, we've now unpacked the trigger. We've now dissected it. We now know what it is. We now need to talk to ourselves about this trigger. Ultimately, we need to remind ourselves that we are now adults and the trigger is a past coping strategy, right? It's something that we had to deal with situations that we were dealing. So when you were a child or a teenager, if you were feeling blamed and you couldn't quite handle the stress from it, you would resort to a fight or flight response in order to get rid of it. Now, as adults, we can look at triggers once we've unpacked them and we can realize that they no longer serve us in the way that they may have used to. It basically means that the next time you have the trigger, remind yourself about this. Remind yourself of that little package that you've now opened up and look at it and realize, right, this makes me feel this way because of that. And you look at it from a third person perspective. The idea being that if you do this enough times, eventually, with lots of practice and going through it, you will get to a point where you will hear the trigger and it will no longer have the same automatic reaction that it used to. Because we have rewired the way that we respond to this trigger. We rewire our relationship with the trigger. We now see it from a third person perspective. We now see it from outside the box, which means that it's not so physical. It takes time. It won't always work, but I can 100% tell you that it does. Over a period of time, it does work because I've done it. Now in the morning when Vader's crying, it often doesn't have a physical reaction with me. That, my friends, is how you unpack and resolve a trigger. Mr. Dr. Psychology, what you say? What triggers do you have? What triggers you? What gets on your tits? I'll tell you what. One of the worst triggers that I see happening with people is when their children are triggering them. I see it a lot. If only they really looked into why they're triggering from their kids. The reason they're having such a physiological reaction to their children crying, shouting, talking back, all stems from them as children. It all stems from the way that they had been treated by their parents. It makes sense. Imagine if your child is doing something naughty, doing something that you don't want them to do. So you have a physical reaction to how they are acting. Now, when you go back to your childhood, if you see that you got in trouble all the time because of the way that you were acting or reacting to things, which is normal as a child, but if you got blamed a lot, if you got shamed a lot, physiological reaction because you're almost feeling their blame and shame that you had when you were a child. You just have to unpack it, man. You have to look at the core of why you're feeling a certain way. I know for me, it's a very difficult one when I'm trying to get my baby girl down to sleep and she starts clawing at my face. This angel, this sweetheart. Her baby blue is looking up at me. Papa? Fucking rage. Like fucking Wolverine trying to attack me, scratching at my chin, trying to bite my jaw. The fuck? And all I want to do is just put her on the bed and go, you know what? Fuck it, do it yourself. Unpack, look at it. What is it? I am feeling angry because she's not doing what I expect her to do, and I feel like she's gonna get in trouble, that she's being shamed, that she's being blamed. This is a me problem. It's not a her problem. Here's a great one, right? When we're in the house and I'm watching TV or I'm in the living room or I'm in a different room to Briggy, if she walks to the room with heavy footsteps, douche, 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 I get a physical reaction. I get tense. And it took me a while to realize in that moment when she's walking to the room with heavy footsteps, I feel like I'm in trouble. I think, shit, what have I done? And it only lasts for a few seconds and then she comes in and I realize it was all in my head. It stems back from when I was a kid and a teenager, always getting in trouble. It reminded me of my mum's footsteps walking towards the door and I was like bracing myself for it. Do you know what I mean? Look at it, unpack it, dissect it, third person perspective, dissolve the fucker. At the very best, all we can do is kind of manage these things. Do you know what I mean? Another trigger which does my absolute titteroo is certain smells. I'm hypersensitive to certain smells. Me, if I smell vinegar, and I can smell vinegar from 100 meters away, I start going like this. I start getting a little bit aggressive. Don't mess with me and vinegar. Someone makes a dish and they tell me there's no vinegar in it and I can smell vinegar. Who are you? How dare you? Get out. Hyper fucking sensitive to all things connected with vinegar. You got a pickle in your hand? Is that a pickle? What are you doing with a pickle in your hand? You're talking to me with a pickle in your hand. Have you just eaten a pickle? A pickled egg. You just ate a pickled egg and then you decided to come talk to me after having eaten a pickled egg. 1, why? 2, why are you talking to me? I mean, come on. It's ridiculous, isn't it? It's pickles. I don't even want to unpack that motherfucker because I am fine with that shit. I will avoid every fish and chip shop in the nation. It's funny how smells can trigger people. Right, I think I've done enough triggers. I mean, this is only, I wanted a light-hearted one. I wanted a light-hearted video. Just to reiterate what I just said, I've Googled something, research. We get triggered because we don't have a direct link with objective reality. Each of us approaches the outer world through the prism of an inner world with a more or less tenuous connection to it. Fucking what, Dr. Heywood? What you saying? For the small triggers, like the day-to-day triggers, I think we can do a lot on our own. You keep your fucking pickled eggs away from me, bastard guy. What are some of your triggers? Tell me. Let me know. I want to hear them. I want to read them. I want to reply to them. Tell me something that really gets under your skin. Something that really frustrates you. You know, when you feel like that, when you kind of lose touch of this old thing called reality. What is it that triggers you? Because I'll tell you what, some of them are fucking hilarious. I'll tell you something else that triggers me. It's people's opinions when they've not been very well thought out. I discuss this on this video. Have a look at it. Let me know what you think. Tell me if you've had any triggers yourself. And if not, fuck off. See you later.